I'm old enough that I remember manually searching through all the text in a document for one word and replacing it with another, all by eye, just hoping I didn't miss one instance. And all I can say is, thank goodness for InDesign's Find Change feature, which lets me do all of it with a single click. It never misses a beat. To use Find Change, I'll go to the Edit menu and choose Find Change, or press Command F or Control F on Windows. Up comes the Find Change dialog box, which I almost always move off to the side so that I can see more of my document page and see what it actually finds. Now in this case, my editor has told me that in this document, I have a couple instances of the word Californios. So I'll type that in the find what. I want to find that Californios, but it should be the word Californians. I don't even know where Californios came from. Californians. There we go. So now I'm going to search for the word Californios and replace it with Californians, just like that. Now, I have a number of options in this dialog box here, including the search pop-up menu. Right now, it's going to search the entire document, but I have various controls here. For example, if I had more than one document open at the same time, I could search all the open documents. This is not all the documents on your hard drive. This is just all the documents that are currently open. I could do all of them at once with the Find Change dialog box by choosing that. Alternately, if I have a text frame selected, I just double-clicked on this text frame over here, it will give me several other options in here, including story or to the end of story. Story means do the entire story from the beginning to the end. To the end of story means just search from where the cursor is currently flashing to the end of the story. Now in this case, I still want to search the entire document, not just that one story. So I'm going to start the search by clicking Find. I click Find and it jumps right to the first instance in this page here. Now the good news is I can use my keyboard shortcuts like Command plus or Control plus on Windows to zoom in on it, and I can actually see, make sure that I've got it right. That's good. Now I have several options here. I could just skip that one, find next. I could change this one instance and just stay where I am by clicking Change. That's very rarely useful. I don't use that very much. Or I could click Change All, which would go through the entire document and change all instances of Californios to Californians. Or the final option would be Change Find, which is simply a combination of clicking Change and then clicking Find next. So this will change this one instance and then jump to the next one. In this case, I'm pretty sure that I got it right and I want to change all of them, so I'm just going to click Change All. And you can see that it says the search is completed, 5 replacements were made. Great, I'll click OK. Now let's find another example. My editor told me that in several places, the abbreviation CA should be CA capitalized. It shouldn't be a lowercase a, it should be a capital A. Okay, well, let's go and try and find one. I'll click Find, and it jumps to, oops, that's not right. I wanted to find CA, uppercase C, lowercase a, and only when this is a whole word as an abbreviation. So how could I tell InDesign to just search for that exactly, not just any CA that it finds? Well, to do that, I need to limit the scope. And to limit the scope, I need to use these various buttons along the middle of the Find Change dialog box. Now, the problem is that these little icons here are very cryptic. I honestly almost never can tell what these things do. So in order to figure out what they are, just move your cursor on top of them and hover just for a moment until you see a tooltip. So this one's include locked layers and locked objects. This one is include locked stories. This one is include hidden layers and hidden objects. So you just go through these various ones and that will remind you what those are. The one we're looking for is case sensitive. We want our search to be case sensitive. We want it to pay attention to uppercase, lowercase, CA, right? And then the other one we want here is whole word. That's the last button in this list. Whole word. So only search whole words. Don't search for CA inside of a word like it found here. Now let's try it out. I'll click Find, and it finds CA, uppercase C, lowercase a, whole word. That it should be all uppercase CA. So let's go ahead and change all. There we go. It made 4 replacements in the document. Much better. Now I'm seeing another problem here right away, and that is somebody typed 2 dashes right next to each other where there should be M dashes. That is so frustrating when I see people do that. You need to type a real M dash in there. So we're going to use Find Change to find all of those double dashes and replace it with an M dash. So it's easy enough to type 2 dashes into the find what field, but what do we type into the change to field? I just deleted that, but what am I supposed to type? Well, you might remember what the keyboard shortcut is for an M dash, or you might not. And if you don't panic. It's not a big problem because you want to pay attention to this little @ sign pop-up menu here. This is the special characters pop-up menu, and inside here, there are all kinds of goodies that you may not know how to type. For example, you can type a tab or forced line break. Let me just choose tab here just for a moment, just so you see what happens. You get a little code. That code, $T, means a tab inside the Find Change dialog box. So you don't have to try and memorize that code. Just pull it out of the pop-up menu. I'm going to delete that again and look for what I meant to look for, which is an M dash. So I'll come down here until I see hyphens and dashes and pop out M dash. There we go. That's the one I want. And you see the code, $_. All right. That is apparently what InDesign believes I should type for an M dash. Let's try it out. I'll click Change All. It goes through, made lots of changes, and I can see that I now have M dashes in all the right places. When you've set up the Find Change dialog box just the way you want it, and you think you're going to be using it a number of times, you should think about saving your Find Change query. This is called a query, find what, change to. Save this query, and you can do that by clicking on this little floppy disk icon. I think it's very funny that they still have a floppy disk icon. Like, who uses floppy disks anymore? But anyway, it's a floppy disk icon, which means save this query. And if you click on that, it'll ask you to give it a name, and I'm going to call this dashes to M dash. Click OK. It then shows up in the query pop-up menu right here in the list. Now, actually, there already was one there, dash dash to M dash, but you get the idea. Once you've set up a query, you can save it in this pop-up menu. And there's a bunch of cool things in here already. For example, one of the searches that I do all the time is find multiple spaces and change it to a single space. You know, sometimes people put 2 spaces after a sentence, or they put like 5 spaces in a row someplace. So I can choose that query, and what happens is I get this really weird set of codes. No, that's not a mistake. It's really okay. Also notice that it switched to the grep tab of the Find Change dialog box. Now, grep is an advanced topic. It's outside the scope of this essential training title, but it is really cool. So I encourage you to check out one of the other grep titles in the lynda.com online training library. This will search for a whole bunch of different types of spaces that might be inside this document, and it'll change them all to an individual space. So you don't need to know about the codes. All you need to know is that you can pull it out of this query pop-up menu. It's as simple as that. And then click Change All. And it went through. Oh, there's no problems in this one. But you get the idea. It will find multiple spaces if they're there. There's lots of other stuff going on inside this Find Change dialog box. I'll switch back to the text tab here so you can see that this is what we were working on. We were looking for basic text and changing it to other basic text. That really crazy thing was in the grep tab, but note that there's 2 other tabs here as well. Glyph, so you can find change a glyph, and you can find change object formatting. And I'm going to be covering object formatting and also text formatting in a later chapter in this title. So it's important to note that there are 4 different tabs inside this Find Change dialog box. Text, which is the one we were working on originally, that's just the basic text find change. Grep, which lets you do all these kind of crazy codes, which is advanced geeky stuff. Glyph lets you find and change individual characters when you have a very specific character that you're trying to find. That's kind of an advanced topic. And object for find change, which lets you find and change object formatting, like find all my text frames that have a 1-point black stroke and change them into a 3-point cyan stroke, something like that. Anyway, I'm going to be covering object formatting and special text formatting find change in a later chapter. But for right now, I just wanted to give you an introduction to the Find Change dialog box and how incredibly powerful it is when you take the time to dial in exactly what you're looking for and exactly what you want to change it to.